John Anderson Fraser, our guest, John Fraser. You sat right up. Reminded you of private school, did it?
Oh, yeah.
Upper Canada years?
No, there they only call you by your last name.
Just Fraser.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I left, I failed my way out of Upper Canada the same year that Conrad Black was expelled for stealing exams. So we left under separate clouds.
I guess you did.
But my moral purity is very good because I failed.
Are you still friends with Conrad Black?
Sure, he's a friend. He'll be out of prison soon.
Apparently he's in Miami now. Isn't he? Is he in prison in Miami?
Yes, he is.
Yes, that's what I thought. But the final stretch is...
People are lined up to visit him. There was an article in the National Post. The editor was trying to be fitted in between Henry Kissinger and Brian Mulroney.
Really? No. And you worked for Conrad.
He owned Saturday Night Magazine,
Saturday
and
Night
I was
Magazine.
an editor.
You were editor there, and all of the above. So let's go back to Massey Chapel, I think. It was a funny story in the book about you're a young lad at UCC, and Vincent Massey, first Canadian born Governor General.
He gave money. No, he gave money to build a small chapel at Upper Canada College in Toronto, this boys' school that he favored. And while it was being built, the workmen were smoking in there, and so it was smoke-proof. So I was about 13 or 14, and it was a great smoker during recess, and it had the advantage of two doors. One, you could put guards on either end of it, so if someone bad was coming one way, you'd all pile out the other way. Mm-hmm. And there was this one horrible day when there were simultaneous bangs on both doors. And one door, the person heading was the most sadistic master of the school, and from the other door was the principal of the college with the Governor General. So we made a very quick decision that it was better to run into the arms of the sadistic master, because the worst that was going to happen was we'd be caned. There was corporal punishment still in those days. Yes. But the other way was probably expulsion. So off they went, except I was stuck at the back, and by the time everyone had crowded out the other door, I'd missed it because the Governor General and Dr. Sobey were coming in the other door. So I just dropped to my knees and started praying in the chapel, which is... and I can remember hearing the principal shouting at the master, who was still looking to grab his last victim, saying, "Get out of here, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Sorry, sir." And I heard some mumbling in the background. I didn't dare get up, I was praying.
Of course you were.
And then there was quiet. Then the bell rang, and I looked around, there was no one in there, and I thought, there is a God. I walked back to my classroom. One by one, the other boys came in, walking very tenderly.
Mm-hmm. Having been caned.
And halfway through the class, the phone in the classroom went, and I was summoned down to Dr. Sobey's office. So I went with a very heavy heart, thinking, oh, they caught me. And I went in, and the principal looked up at me and he said, Fraser, you should know His Excellency was very pleased to see a boy at prayer. That was my one and only meeting with Vincent Massey.
That was your one and only meeting with Vincent Massey, your first meeting with royalty.
Well,
actual
vice royalty.
Vice royalty. But
with royalty, the first would have been the Queen Mother in 1967 when she came to St. John's, Newfoundland, when I was a summertime reporter. And she came aboard the Royal Yacht Britannia. It was a spectacular moment, and I was assigned to cover the tour, and I got an invitation to the reception for the provincial cabinet. And I had just broken up with the daughter of Minister of Health, who was accompanying her father because her mother was sick. And as soon as I saw her, I thought, oh, Mother of God, this is not going to go well. And at one point we started talking, and it was a pretty nasty conversation. I'd been ditched. So,
apparently. Dumped.
And then just as we're in the middle of a really rancorous moment, the equerry or steward came up to us and said, oh, Her Majesty would love to speak to some younger people. And as we walked towards the Queen Mother, I knew it was going to be a disaster. I knew I'd talk too much, which I do when I get nervous. I knew that she'd mention her bloody father, who she always brought out on state occasions, and I knew we'd get into an argument, and all three things happened. And
with the Queen Mom observing.
Oh, yeah. I think she was amused. She said something. I was just blathering, and finally my ex-girlfriend said, well, I don't remember your last visit, Your Majesty. And the Queen Mother said, oh, you couldn't. You would have been too young. I said, so young, Your Majesty, she wasn't born for another 7 years. And she said, that's not fair, John. Daddy showed me pictures or something. I said, oh, well, if Daddy showed you. Finally, the Queen Mother said, children, this will pass. This will pass.
This is just a small dust-up.
Yeah. She was sweet. She calmed us down.
Oh, she did. Well, no matter where you live in the world, the Queen Mom hit the nerve. even in Montana.
Well, Americans love the royal family. I don't know why particularly, but they do. On the whole, they always get a warm reception. There
Yeah, very much
articles
so.
about them.
Do you think, perhaps more than some Canadians, what do you think the rift is about? The hate affair with royalty here. Is it about money? Is it about we need to be a republic?
None of that. I don't think it's hate so much as a sense that somehow it's wrong to have a foreign head of state. And that's because people are not taught any longer about the historic role of the Crown in Canada. You have to just look at a map and look at the number of place names. I mean, we're here in British Columbia near the capital, Victoria, and you can go right across the country and see the role that the Crown played. And then people, because it works well as a system, people somehow think that we've got this relic of colonialism, and we don't. We have an up-to-date, adjusted monarchy that's worked well.
And there's something lovely about Prince William speaking in Ottawa and saying, Catherine and I are thrilled and excited by the prospect of the next 8 days, especially being part of the Canadian family.
Yeah.
It'll be an adventure that we'll never forget, and I'm sure it was. And Queen Elizabeth II, of course. This country feels like home.
Well, it's a family, and one debate that I was at, someone said, well, you know, the royal family is dysfunctional. And I just looked at it and I said, yours isn't? I said, you don't have a microphone in front of your family, but I don't know a family that isn't dysfunctional.
Right.
And to me, that makes them more human, too, that they...
But think what they've, like, for instance, the rumors. And I assume some fibs and lies and some truth, don't know, around Prince Philip.
So he's supposed to have had all these affairs.
All
Do
these affairs.
you seriously think if he had one affair that we wouldn't have heard about it? Do you seriously think?
No.
And Kitty Kelly, the nastiest piece of goods on the earth,
I've
spent
interviewed Kitty Kelly.
Went to a lot of trouble to try and find someone, and
Yes.
she put all the smoke up, but she never found anything. And I don't actually believe, this day and age, that you can keep secrets like that in that public eye.
What about his relationship with Princess Diana?
I think he was probably a good father-in-law who was exasperated. He tried writing letters. I think just about everything's known. He wasn't her enemy or anything.
And when she died, the response from the Queen?
How do you mean?
Some people thought the Queen didn't
Oh, because
mourn enough. She wasn't sad enough.
Well, the Queen's has a rigid code of service, and she's not that much in touch with the touchy-feely world. I thought the film, The Queen, probably got, even if it was a dramatization, it probably got the reality pretty closely.
Interesting.
And
yeah, better than the Thatcher film.
Yeah, although I love Meryl Streep.
Oh,
You're
me
not
too.
allowed to say anything mean about Meryl Streep.
No, Meryl Streep, phenomenal.
It wasn't much of a movie. It was an incredible character study.
I thought it should have focused on something other than Thatcher's more than Thatcher's
It's a brilliant
ill
portrayal
health.
of early Alzheimer's, though.
Yeah, true. So, you were at the wedding.
Sort of. I was with the press corps.
Well, sort of.
Well, I was in the
but
Abbey
it was
grounds.
interesting to watch all of the
grounds.
where will Elton John sit, or maybe he won't sit, and who will be here, and who will be there, and where's.
I was less fascinated with that. I mean, I loved the whole sight of the revival of how the family was working to make this institution, which is so old and has suffered so many slings and arrows, that it's become alive because of a young couple. That was, to me, very moving. And
not only slings and arrows to the royals, but certainly to the vice-regals or the lieutenant governor. When Adrian Clarkson did what you call and what I thought was a very imaginative thing, and took artists and Canadians.
Imaginative and magical and innovative, and she just got shot down by the government of the day, by Paul Martin. I thought it was crazy. She was struggling hard to make this office relevant to Canadians, and almost, I think, out of jealousy. The government just sort of shot her down. And to me, that was another argument for why the Crown works, because had Adrian been allowed to do what she wanted to do and had been longer in office, I don't think I would have had as strong an argument. But the very fact that she was undermined, that the next Governor General, Madame Jeanne, was also undermined to some extent.
Yes.
And to me, that's a sign that It is better to have a monarchy that transcends some of those problems. And then there's this other issue, Fanny, that Australians who clearly are Republican-minded had an actual referendum on it. And all it did was split the country open. It didn't end up being a referendum on the Crown. It became a referendum on how Australians saw themselves.
Sure.
And even though they're probably Republican, they voted to save the Crown.
Well, and back to Adrian for a minute, Madam Clarkson, I admire her greatly, and I think when you have an imaginative idea out of the box, and we say, but it's about the money or it's about this, but when Prime Minister Martin just let her swing.
Yeah, and it wasn't, I mean, when you think, oh God, when you think of the money that goes flying out of Ottawa, taking a few artists and...
I know, you noticed.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Oh, it was lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Nice to see you. The Secret of the Crown Canada's Affair with Royalty, and there's 32 pictures or something in here.
Not one of her in Montana, though.
Not one from Montana, and no Prince Harry in Jamaica, trying to be the world's fastest man.
No.
He's a character, but there is Vincent Massey, the
There
lauded.
is. He's not that fast.
No, thank you. John Fraser.